Welcome to our third and final module on traditional self-care. We're going to be exploring some rituals and practices that our ancestors considered essential for the postpartum. But before we dive in, I want to ask you to think now about what is non-negotiable in your life. Once the baby comes, everything is going to be different. You're going to be transitioning from a life of freedom to a life of responsibility, from 2 to 3. And though your old self isn't lost, you're going to be opening yourself up to a much wider perspective. So with this perspective, it's really easy to get lost in the thick of it, right? To just lose yourself to mothering. A lot of us are deeply sensitive and intuitive people. We feel what our babies feel, and it becomes so easy to just forget about ourselves. So now is the time to get crystal clear on what is non-negotiable in your life. What do you need to maintain about yourself now after the baby comes? And of course, we can be flexible, we can adapt. But I'll give you an example about myself. After my son was born, I dedicated myself 100% to him. And I found that I would really go through periods of feeling really lost and depressed and even regretting motherhood at a few different times. And this is because I completely forgot about myself. So now my non-negotiable is 1 hour a day that I have just to myself. And that might look like taking a nap. It might look like cooking, reading, or working on my business. But whatever it is, I know that I need that 1 hour to myself daily. So sometimes I wake up early to get it, or I go to bed late. For me, having that hour is more important than cleaning the house sometimes, and that's just the way it is for me. So for you, go ahead and just begin to think about what you know you need and get that set up now. Talk to your support people and communicate with them what you're going to need. Just remember that once you become a mother, you haven't lost your old self. You're just blossoming into a new version of yourself. And it's so important to honor all the different iterations that arise in that journey. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the perineum and proper care. After you give birth, some symptoms you might experience are swelling or pain or soreness around that area. But something that helped me so much is a Sitz Bath. And a Sitz Bath is basically just soaking the perineum in about 3 inches of water in your tub, or you can actually buy a Sitz Bath basin, relatively inexpensive, at your local pharmacy and sit in that. And it's not just water. We're talking about really healing herbs. You can buy Sitz Bath mixture online or from your local herb store, or you can actually buy some herbs in bulk and create a mixture yourself. In your resources, I have all the steps for creating a super healing and relaxing Sitz Bath. A Sitz Bath is not appropriate for a mother who has had a C-section. For these mothers, a foot bath can be a really nice alternative. You can use these same teas, but instead you're essentially soaking your feet. Even if you don't have swelling in the feet, which is common, you can think about it as 20 minutes to yourself every day of your postpartum to just dedicate to yourself and enjoy. Once you have your healing Sitz Bath tea ready, you can use that same mixture in a peri bottle to use whenever you go to the bathroom. So obviously toilet paper is going to be out. But this peri bottle is wonderful because not only does it clean, but it also is going to help soothe that tender perineum and help with any burning or itching that can be related. So you'll have all of that taken care of, the recipe and the guidelines in your resources. As leftover lochia or birth matter leaves the body, you're going to be experiencing bleeding for the weeks after giving birth. And you're going to be needing to use some kind of a pad. So one thing you can do that feels really nice is to create what I call a padsicle. So you take your pad, and they're reusable or disposable. You can choose which one feels better for you. And you soak it in a mixture with witch hazel. You put it in the freezer, and then you use it. And that way you have this nice, cooling, really natural pain relief. One last way to deal with the pains associated with the postpartum is to use an after-ease herbal tincture. And what this does is it basically helps you eliminate pain. You begin by taking it right after you give birth, and you can use it for several days following. So let's talk about the yoni. The yoni is the word that I like to use for vagina because it means the origin of life, and it comes from Sanskrit. So we're just going to use that word, okay? Okay. So let's talk about yoni steaming. This is a super ancient practice that is just kind of beginning to resurge in our culture. Traditionally, yoni steaming was done by midwives, but since the field of birth has been mostly male-dominated in our culture, we've really lost this practice. And the idea is to create, again, a healing kind of tea with specific herbs that are really beneficial for the yoni. You can think of it like giving your yoni a facial. So it's going to help tighten that area. It's going to speed up healing. It's great for episiotomies or stitches. It's known to help accelerate the removal of lochia from the body and also to help shrink the uterus and the yoni canal back to its pre-pregnancy size. And again, it's as easy as making a cup of tea. You can either squat over a bowl of this really hot liquid, or you can buy a special yoni basin to sit on. Belly binding is another practice that has traditionally been done for centuries. And this is the idea of using a cloth, a long cloth, and tying it in knots from the waist up to the top of the ribs. And the idea is that this will help accelerate getting back to our pre-pregnancy size. And I'm not saying that we need to look exactly like we did before the baby and be thin or anything like that. This is really more about helping our internal system get back into the place that it was. We don't have much of a practice of this in our culture, and a lot of us find that down the road we feel like we're kind of out of place in a way, and that's probably because we are. So when you're doing belly binding, you're helping the uterus shrink back to the size it's supposed to be and making sure everything is returning to proper alignment. Some other benefits include helping with posture, back and neck pain, reducing bleeding and swelling. Binding can also be very emotionally supportive for the new mother. Pregnancy is a time of filling the body with life, and once that's gone, it's easy to feel like something is missing. Binding can become a really beautiful ceremony of sealing the body and also sealing our maidenhood. Mother warming or mother roasting is a traditional Chinese medicine technique to help restore lost blood and qi. As we've talked about in our nutrition module, we lose a lot of qi and blood during the postpartum. And this can really open us up to symptoms like fatigue, prolapse, or postpartum depression. And one way to replenish that qi is by keeping the mother warm. After giving birth, the mother's meridians or energy pathways are open, making her more vulnerable to cold, as it's known in Chinese medicine. But by keeping the mother warm, we can really ward off these symptoms of cold. One way to do that is just simply by keeping her warm. So if she's going to be naked with the baby, which is great, skin to skin is a wonderful idea for bonding, then they can have a blanket wrapped around them. As much as possible, she should keep her throat and her lower back covered. Even in a Sitz Bath, it's recommended that she wears a shirt. The idea is just to keep her as warm as possible, keeping the heat on in the house and not allowing these pernicious cold influences to deplete any more of her qi. Cold in this way leads to blood stagnation. So in the same way as her outside should be kept warm, so should her insides. So we can think back again to that second module, eating warm, well-cooked foods. A simple way to take care of ourselves is by using some DIY plant medicines. Now, you don't need to make these yourself, but they're so simple, and healing truly begins with creating the medicine. So the intent that we put into the medicine as we gather it, as we create it, and then as we put it onto our bodies. Traditionally, hair oil and body oil have been very nourishing for new mamas. A super simple hair oil that you can make yourself involves lavender, rosemary, and olive oil. You can place a few drops on your hairbrush and then just brush your hair with it when it's dry, or when your hair is wet, you can comb it through. The recipe is going to be in your resources. Using body oil during the postpartum dates back to pre-biblical times. A DIY body oil that I love is made with coconut oil, lavender, and frankincense. Lavender is known to be very soothing and relaxing, and frankincense can also be very grounding. It was used in biblical times to anoint a baby's head after going through the trauma of birth. So those are just two really simple recipes that I love to use, and I hope you enjoy trying them out. Part of the beauty of this oil is you can use it on both you and your baby. Massaging your baby is going to help your baby feel comfortable and increase bonding between the two of you. But let's not forget, this is self-care, giving yourself a massage, feeling your new body, and honoring it for what it is at this stage. It's so easy to get caught up in what you look like after birth and feeling like you still look the same as you did before. But the truth is, your body has changed and it will continue to change. So this is a lovely time to just really honor and tap into what your body has become now. So that's it. We've reached the end, but really for you, it's just the beginning. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this journey. It means so much to me to know that there are other like-minded mamas out there who are just working to heal themselves and be the best mothers that they can be. And remember, there's a lot of information here, but it's really just about picking and choosing what works for you and tapping into your own innate wisdom and intuition. Remember that even when things get crazy and you feel like you're failing, you're not. You're doing an incredible job. You're enough. You're amazing. Thank you so much.